Welcome to Trent's Garage. I'm Trent, and today I'm going to show you how to install the Airlift 1000 HD load leveling airbags in a Ram 1500. And this is what we'll be installing them on. As you can see, with just a few tires in the bed, a truck topper, and a rooftop tent, my truck has considerable squat, and that's not the look I'm going for. So that is what we're going to fix today. I started by taking a measurement of where the fender was relative to the ground, so that way we have something to compare when we actually get the airbags installed. And this is what you'll need to install the airbags. Once you open up the box, you'll find two airbags that go inside the coil springs in the back of the Ram, the air hose that connects the bags, the spacers that sit on top of the bags, and the assorted hardware that you need, as well as the instruction manual, user manual, and most importantly, the sticker. So start by securing your wheels just to make sure that nothing moves while you're underneath working on the truck. Then get your jack stands in place, and I tried lifting the axle first, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So then I gave up on that idea, and I tried the hitch, but eventually I realized that lift wasn't going to work, and I wasn't going to get enough of the stretch out of the spring or the travel out of the suspension. So I moved to the high lift, and I still wasn't super comfortable using that. I do recommend putting a boot on the top of those things whenever you use them, just to make sure it won't move and ding up your bodywork or anything like that. So I messed around with this high lift a little bit and got it somewhat decent. Then I took out the fender well. That's just a few screws. Used a power tool, which is always fun. Then just worked it out of there. It was a bit of a challenge. So here's what the spring looks like when there's no fender well in the way, and before there's an airbag in it. Next, you'll want to take your airbags out and then flatten them down like I'm doing here, and that's kind of the only way you can get them inside your coil springs. And then once you do that, I would take and I set them out in the sun just to keep that rubber a little warmer and more malleable for getting it inside this coil. So then I tried a few different ways here to get that bag inside that spring, but as you can tell, I wasn't having a whole lot of luck. So then I just changed my tactics a little bit. What I ended up doing is just picking up one side and letting it all the way down to the ground, and then jacking up one side of the truck at a time. And this really worked out a lot better because I was able to let that suspension travel a lot further than I had when I jacked up both sides. So then I was able to work that spring in. I still tried a few different ways here, but it worked eventually, which it's not easy, but give it some pry with the any blunt instrument, and you can get it in there pretty simply. I think the key there is getting it folded hot dog bun style once you get it inside the spring. Then you just let the cap off the top and it lets the air out, and voila, that's what it looks like. So after I got the bag inside the coil, I took the air tube line and I cut it as flat as I could. You want to make sure that the end of that is nice and flat. I tried using sandpaper just to kind of make it a little flatter, but it didn't work. I wouldn't do it if I were you. So I just kind of took it around and scored it and then cut it with those pliers, and that worked just fine. So then you put your spacer in. Make sure to put that in before you hook up the airline. Then you put that little clip on. They like to fly. Put that on your tube, and then put your tube on the little stem part, and then slide that clamp back on top of where the tube connects. Then thread that through. There's a space in the top of the coil spring holder. That's how that tube goes down through there. Thread that on, get it on there hand tight, and then I just did about a turn, one full turn with the pliers. Then I took and fed that airline through my frame, just so it's not dangling around or anything. And I like the look. It's cleaner and it's probably more protected that way as well. One thing I did change though is I ended up running that tube or the airline all the way out the end of my frame instead of coming out where that hole was. Then I reinstalled the fender wells, and that side was just about done. So that's what it looks like when you get the airbag inside the spring and you set it back down. And then I did the other side, and 3, 2, 1, voila. That was much easier. I'm kidding. So then I did the right side hose, or the passenger side hose, and that's what it looks like. That's the guide for how to thread those on there. So then you just make sure you cut your hose to the right length, and then you can attach the Schrader valve to the airline, and make sure you have the securing clip on your hose before you put your hose on the Schrader valve. Then you take your nut and you spin that on there, and then a lock washer or a star washer, and you leave about 3 threads on the back, and that worked well for me in terms of spacing. Then the rubber O-ring, then the metal O-ring, and then your front nut goes on there. And then you just tighten those down, and then you can adjust the back nut if you want more or less Schrader valve or threads on the front. And these are 13mm size nuts. I just used a ratchet and a wrench on the back end, and they tighten down really well. It does come with this T thing here for if you want to run only one Schrader valve, but I liked it to run 2 because I wanted the side-to-side leveling for my tent. So then once I had those installed, I blew them up to about 40 psi. I think I did 42. And it rode really well. As well, it also lifted, or not lifted, but re-leveled my truck. You can see here that I have about 1.5 inches more distance from the ground to the fender well now. So that's how you install the Airlift 1000 HD air assist springs, or airbags if you would rather, on a Ram 1500. Thank you for watching. Before I go, there's one thing I forgot to do, and that's the most important part: installing the sticker. Once again, thank you for watching. Please comment down below if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll do my best. Thank you.